PJ Facts. PJ Facts.
At you, not at the camera. Ah, okay.
General, thank you so much for this opportunity. We wanted to first find out when and how did you first meet General?
I first met General Aronda Nyakairuma in the month of April 1986. That was 2 months after the capture of Kampala. At that time, he was operating from room 15 of the Central Police Station. I remember it was during that time that the National Resistance Army carried out the first operation in the city to curb insecurity, and it was called Operation Nagoya. It was called Nagoya because we were targeting unregistered vehicles, and all those vehicles were coming from Japan, hence the name Nagoya. So I was actively involved in that operation. I was a roadblock commander around the Ginger Road, and General Aronda was coordinating operations based at the CPS. So that was my first time to work with him, although I had heard about him. Then later we worked together at the Directorate of Military Intelligence, which was based at Basima House in Mengo, and he was the Assistant Director in charge of counterintelligence. Maybe prominent personalities who were with us at that time included the current head of state of Rwanda, President Kagame. He was the Assistant Director in charge of personnel, finance, and administration. And our Director of Military Intelligence was Brigadier General Andrew Rutaya, who has since retired. General Aronda was later transferred to the Presidential Protection Unit as intelligence officer. But when I joined the Presidential Protection Unit, or PPU as it was called then, in 1995, I was posted there as a private secretary of the President. I found General Aronda leaving. He was leaving for Fort Leavenworth to attend Senior Command and Staff College. So I never worked with him at the PPU. But later we worked together when he was a Deputy Director of Intelligence. And in 2005, I took over from him the command of Armored Brigade in Masaka. He was the command of Armored Brigade, and when I was appointed in 2005, in November, he handed over to me. I remember very well during the handover ceremony, he even gifted me with a book on tank warfare. Later, from I think 2008 onwards, when I was appointed Chief of Military Intelligence, at that time, he was the Chief of Defense Forces. So, of course, as his Chief of Intelligence, we were working closely. I worked with him for 3 years. As was the Chief of Military Intelligence, and he was the Chief of Defense Forces. It was during that period that the UPDF was involved in very many operations. Operations against Road Resistance Army, operations against Al-Shabaab in Somalia, operations against counterterrorism operations here in Kampala. You remember the 2010 bombings. I was the Chief of Intelligence and he was the CMI. And operations against disarmament operations against in Karamoja. So we worked together closely during those operations. I recall when we were carrying out what we called Operation Lightning Thunder against LRA, which was based in Garamba at that time. I used to even live with him. My tent was always next to his, whether in Dungu, in Democratic Republic of Congo, in Yambio, South Sudan, in Nzara, South Sudan, in Obo, Central African Republic. I mean, we were there day and night. We were always there together, assessing the situation and executing operations against Joseph Kony and his LRA. So those are, I mean, that's the time we worked together in all those areas. but largely as his staff officer.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to go back a little bit to different times we worked together, just for clarification. I wanted to know in 1996, 2 months after the fact, when you met him at CPS, what was his role?
What was
His role.
role?
Yeah. What was he doing?
He was coordinating intelligence operations, and he was based at the Central Police Station.
I also wanted to get clarification. Probably not clarification, but along the way, what traits or character did you see in him? Especially around the CMI, when you were in CMI and the city.
Mm.
What do you remember?
You see, General Aronda was a colossus of a man. He was a giant in all ways, ideologically, intellectually, as a strategic thinker. In faith, he was very religious. So really sometimes you may not get an adjective to describe him. But he's well known as someone who was a workaholic. He used to work, I think, maybe 24 hours. I don't know if he ever went home before midnight. And even the period I worked with him, I'd never seen him take leave. So he was a committed person. He was loyal to his country. He was loyal to his command-in-chief. He was very disciplined as an individual, and he enforced discipline in the UPDF. In fact, General Aronda used to say that discipline is our trademark as UPDF, and that discipline is in our DNA. So he really enforced discipline. He took over command of the UPDF when we were having some challenges. For example, some of the commanders were practicing what they used to call baroda. And the commanders would lend the money to their subordinates, to soldiers, at very high rates. It was called baroda. He stopped that one. He cared for the welfare of the soldier. In fact, when you hear of the Wazalendo Circle now, you know, this big Wazalendo Circle that they are talking about, General Aronda was the brain behind the Wazalendo Circle. General Aronda was a true cadre of the revolution. He appreciated and understood the strategic relationship between the army and the wananchi. And wherever he would be deployed, he would not only do military work, he would also do political work. He would be involved in political mobilization, he would be involved in security mobilization. As a matter of fact, whenever he would come to an area, even before he meets the commanders, he would first have to look for the LC1, look for LC5, look for RDC, you know, because he valued that strategic relationship we have with the wananchi. So you can see that this is someone who was very clear, ideologically clear. As an individual, he was a person of high level of integrity. High level of integrity. He abhorred corruption. He was well grounded in the NRA, UPDF methods of work. Methods of work like open constructive criticism. He abhorred subversive tendencies like cheap popularity, like love for self-strife, like subterranean grumbling, you know. So you can see that he was really a committed and true cadre of the revolution.
I wanted to find out, I mean, you talked about the baroda system, quote unquote, introduced to Wazalendo. I just want to know how you think General Aronda's legacy impacted or impacts, or leadership, actually not legacy, they call it leadership, impacted in the welfare overall.
No, by introducing Wasako, for example, that was Aronda Sako. That is a welfare project which has helped our soldiers to access loans at very low interest rates, and on very, very flexible terms, and it's their own, you know. So as you must have heard, it's one of the biggest circles in the country. So that one, in a way, helped the soldier, supported the welfare of the soldier. But he's also someone who put emphasis on education of the soldiers' children, on their health. So he set up a number of medical centers in different units. He set up and promoted schools. So he really cared for the welfare of the soldier.
General, I want to find out what values do you think the youth of today learn?
Selflessness, hard work, loyalty, patriotism. They should love their country and be ready to defend their country. Integrity, now we are having challenges of corruption. Corruption has permeated into and saturated throughout the nerves and veins of the moral fabric of our society. So really, we call upon the youth to fight corruption. And those are some of the values which I think should be upheld by the youth.
Second last, we've been talking about the serious things. Are there some light moments you might recall, personal moments you might recall, and Aronda, things that lightened up those operations?
By the way, he had a very good humor, and I don't know which specific examples I can bring as far as that is concerned. Maybe I leave that one, because some of them were more private that I wouldn't want them to, to appear here. But on another note, I remember some of his phrases. For example, he used to say that you cannot afford to sleep as an intelligence officer, because at night that's when the thieves wake up. That when you sleep, when the thieves have woken up, then you are doing a disservice to your country. He used to get concerned about the presence of our people, especially in North Uganda, in internal displaced camps. We had those IDPs. And he would say we cannot afford to sleep when 1.5 Ugandans are in IDPs. So you could see the concern. He used to say that when other people are walking, we should be running, So those are some of the things I remember about him, some of the phrases. And then he also had this phrase, it's not business as usual. This is not business as usual. You have to work, you have to deliver. He was result-oriented. He wanted action. He was self-propelled, like a self-propelled artillery. He didn't need any external propulsion. He did not need to be tasked in order to do something, because he had that self-drive, which was very, very important.
Maybe on the memorial lecture, what message do you hope the upcoming memorial lecture serves? Lecture on Thanksgiving serves for both the current soldiers and the future leadership.
First of all, I must appreciate the strategic leadership, the Chief of Defense Forces, for having organized this memorial lecture in honor of the late General Aronda, because he left a towering legacy in this country. And I think it's a very good culture that we should always appreciate. Let's have time to appreciate and honor our own who have made great contributions to this country. Jesus Christ is still celebrated 2,000 years after his death. Muhammad, after 1,400 years. So why don't we celebrate our own who have made such a big contribution to make our country what it is today? So I think this is very important, and we should continue celebrating our people, especially those who have left a big mark on the nation.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. Unless you have anything you'd like to share with us that we might not have.
I think really that is it. That's it about him, how we knew him and how we worked, and yeah, what I think about him. Then Aronda motivated many people, many of these young officers, you know. He groomed them, he identified them, he pressed them where he thought they would deliver, he motivated them, and some of us really are where we are partly because of his motivation. And we salute him. Thank you.
PJ Facts.